In the distant reaches of the Andromeda sector, a young human girl named Ilara was captured by the Zephyrian Patrol, a race known for their advanced technology and brutal governance of their sprawling galactic empire. Ilara, whose family had settled on a remote mining colony, was taken during one of the Zephyrians' routine sweeps for resources. The Zephyrians, intrigued by her resilience and unfamiliar human physiology, decided to bring her to their capital on Zephyra Prime for examination. The news of her capture spread quickly among the human colonies, igniting a fire of unrest that had been smoldering under the surface for decades. The humans, tired of the Zephyrian Empire's oppressive rule and exploitation, began to whisper of rebellion, seeing Ilara's capture as the last straw. Chapter 2. The experimentation on Zephyra Prime. Ilara was subjected to a series of experiments aimed at understanding the limits of human endurance and adaptability. The Zephyrian scientists, devoid of empathy, pushed her physical and mental boundaries, unaware that their actions were being monitored by a sympathetic insider. This insider, a Zephyrian named Threx, was appalled by his people's cruelty. Risking his life, he managed to send out encrypted messages detailing Ilara's plight. These messages found their way to the human resistance, a covert group that had long prepared for a chance to strike against the Zephyrians. Chapter 3. The Warning. Armed with Threx's information, the human resistance crafted a plan not just to rescue Ilara, but to send a clear message to the Zephyrians. As their stealth ships approached Zephyra Prime, the resistance broadcasted a stark warning across all communication channels. Run! This was not just a rescue mission, it was the beginning of a revolution. The warning caused chaos among the Zephyrians, who had never anticipated such bold defiance from the humans. Their military scrambled to respond, but the element of surprise worked heavily in the resistance's favor. Chapter 4. The Uprising. The rescue mission was swift and fierce. Ilara was extracted from her confinement amidst the chaos, and her liberation sparked uprisings across several human colonies. Seeing their empire's vulnerability, other subjugated species began to rise up as well, coordinating with the humans to dismantle the Zephyrian reign. The Zephyrians, realizing too late the spirit and resilience of those they had oppressed, found themselves overrun on multiple fronts. The galactic landscape was forever changed, with new alliances forming from the ashes of the old empire. The story of Ilara and the human warning became a legend, a reminder of the power of resilience and the importance of empathy in the face of tyranny. The Zephyrian capital of Zephyra Prime was a marvel of engineering, a sprawling metropolis where metallic structures twisted towards the sky like silver vines, and luminescent energy pulses traveled through visible conduits, lighting the city with an ethereal glow. This was the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, a hub of scientific advancement and authoritarian control. It was here, deep within a secretive research facility, that Ilara found herself imprisoned. Her cell was replaced by a sterile laboratory, vast and intimidating, where every surface gleamed with a cold, hard precision. The air was thick with a sterile scent, and the constant hum of machinery was punctuated by the soft, robotic voices of the lab's AI systems. Ilara, still reeling from the shock of her abduction, was subjected to a battery of tests. Zephyrian scientists, their eyes devoid of sympathy, monitored her responses with clinical detachment. The experiments were diverse and invasive. Samples of her blood, skin, and hair were taken repeatedly. They tested her physical resilience through exposure to extreme temperatures and atmospheric pressures, simulating conditions found on the most inhospitable planets. Psychological endurance was probed via simulations, where holographic images of her family and home were twisted into nightmarish scenarios, observing her emotional and mental reactions. One of the lead scientists, a renowned Zephyrian researcher named Dr. Krezul, took a particular interest in Ilara. Dr. Krezul, known for his groundbreaking work in xenobiology, saw Ilara not as a child but as a subject, a key to understanding human adaptability and resilience. His notes, filled with cold calculations and observations, hinted at a larger agenda: utilizing the inherent traits of humans to enhance Zephyrian capabilities. As the days turned into weeks, Ilara's spirit began to fray under the relentless examination and isolation. However, unbeknownst to her captors, she was not as alone as they believed. Threx, a junior scientist working under Dr. Krizel, grew increasingly disturbed by the ethical implications of their work. Threx, who had joined the Empire's scientific community out of a genuine desire to advance knowledge for the betterment of all, found himself haunted by Ilara's plight. Threx's discomfort turned into covert action. He began documenting the experiments in secret, using his access to the facility's systems to gather evidence. His plan was risky: to leak this information to the human resistance, hoping it would spark a rescue mission, or at least bring galactic attention to the Zephyrians' violations of interstellar humanitarian laws. One evening, under the guise of performing routine data backups, Threx transmitted a detailed report along with video evidence off-planet, using a secure channel known only to the Resistance. The data packet included everything from video recordings of the experiments to Dr. Krizel's research notes and Ilara's medical records. Meanwhile, Ilara, unaware of Threx's actions, found small ways to resist her situation. She learned to hide her emotions, giving her captors less satisfaction from their tests. She memorized the routines of the guards and the layout of the lab, plotting her escape, no matter how futile it might seem. Her resolve hardened. She would not let her spirit be broken by the cold, calculating Empire. This act of silent defiance was her way of maintaining control, a small beacon of hope in the sterile darkness of her captivity. As the encrypted data from Threx coursed through the vast expanse of space, it found its way to a covert operations base hidden in the debris field of the Tethys asteroid belt. This base, an unassuming cluster of interconnected modules, was the nerve center of the human resistance. Here, leaders and strategists gathered, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of screens, displaying incoming transmissions and surveillance data. Upon receiving Threx's transmission, the resistance was galvanized into action. The detailed reports and harrowing footage of Ilara's ordeal incited a surge of outrage and determination. After careful analysis, the strategists devised a bold plan, not only to rescue Ilara but to send a stark message to the Zephyrians and the galaxy at large. The plan was twofold: a direct assault on the facility where Ilara was held to extract her, and simultaneously, a series of coordinated strikes on lesser guarded but strategically important Zephyrian outposts. The objective was to spread their forces thin, create confusion, and expose the vulnerabilities of the Zephyrian Empire to other subjugated species. As the Resistance's fleet of stealth ships approached Zephyra Prime, they initiated the first phase of their plan. A blanket broadcast, encrypted to momentarily bypass Zephyrian sensors, was sent across all communication channels. The message was simple and chilling: run. The broadcast caused immediate chaos. Zephyrian authorities scrambled to trace the source and tighten security, while rumors and fear spread among the population. The message served as a warning to Zephyrians and a signal to oppressed peoples across the Empire, hinting at the uprising to come. Back on Zephyra Prime, the Resistance fighters, cloaked and armed, infiltrated the research facility. The complex was a labyrinth of corridors and security checkpoints, but the detailed blueprints included in Threx's data made navigation feasible. Resistance fighters, moving with precision and guided by Threx's insider knowledge, disabled security systems and neutralized guards as they made their way to the lower levels where Ilara was held. Simultaneously, other resistance cells activated across the Empire, attacking communication hubs, supply depots, and energy stations. These strikes were not lethal but were designed to incapacitate and distract, sowing further disorder. Inside the facility, the team reached Ilara's lab. The door was blasted open, and the fighters stormed in, quickly overpowering the scientists and guards. Ilara, who had been in the middle of yet another grueling test, looked up in disbelief as the Resistance fighters cut her restraints and led her out of the nightmare she had endured. As they made their escape, Ilara, despite her exhaustion and trauma, felt a fierce joy. Around her, The facility descended into chaos, alarms blaring and lights flashing. The Zephyrians were indeed running, just as the broadcast had warned. The rescue team, with Alara now among them, fought their way back to their ship, covering each other's movements with practiced ease. As they blasted off from Zephyra Prime, Alara took one last look at the planet. The sight of the Empire's capital, now a beacon of confusion and fear, was a sight she would carry with her forever, the day the galaxy stood up to its oppressors. As the Resistance's stealth ship cut through the cosmos, speeding away from Zephyra Prime, Alara sat among her rescuers, her body bruised but her spirit indomitable. The ship buzzed with a tense energy. Every crew member knew the significance of what they had just sparked. They had not only rescued one of their own, but had also ignited a firestorm across the galaxy that promised to alter the course of history. Back on Zephyra Prime and across numerous other planets and stations under Zephyrian control, the initial chaos triggered by the Resistance's coordinated attacks had evolved into widespread rebellion. News of the daring rescue and the subsequent upheavals reached other subjugated species, who saw the Zephyrians' momentary disarray as a beacon of hope. Secret communications passed between different worlds, fanning the flames of revolt. On planets like Thessia Minor and Gorgon's Reach, local resistance cells, inspired by the humans' boldness, began their own uprisings. They sabotaged surveillance networks and freed prisoners from detention centers, gradually taking control of their communities. The Zephyrians, stretched thin and caught off guard, struggled to maintain their grip. Meanwhile, the human resistance used this momentum to solidify alliances with other oppressed groups. Strategic meetings were held on neutral planets, where leaders from different species came together, united by a common enemy. They formed the Galactic Alliance, a coalition with the goal of dismantling the Zephyrian Empire and establishing a new, fair governance system. Alara, her story having become a symbol of the struggle for freedom, was asked to speak at these gatherings. Her first-hand accounts of Zephyrian cruelty and her resilience resonated deeply, drawing more supporters to their cause. As the revolution gained strength, battles erupted on strategic fronts. Zephyrian military installations were besieged and key supply lines were cut off. The Zephyrians, realizing the gravity of their plight, attempted to negotiate, but the newly formed Galactic Alliance, empowered and resolute, pressed their advantage. In a decisive battle near the nebula of Vors, the Galactic Alliance confronted the main Zephyrian fleet. The battle was fierce, with significant losses on both sides, but the Alliance, fueled by the desire for freedom and justice, eventually emerged victorious. The Zephyrian command ship, carrying the High Regent himself, was captured, marking a turning point in the war. In the aftermath, a peace treaty was signed aboard the Alliance flagship, with terms that dismantled the Zephyrian Empire's authoritarian structures. The Zephyrians were not oppressed in return, but were integrated into the new galactic system, under strict regulations to prevent future abuses. Alara returned to Alaron 5, her home planet, now free from Zephyrian control. Reunited with her family, she found her community transformed. The mining colony had evolved into a symbol of the broader galactic struggle. Alara chose to remain active in the new political landscape, working to ensure that the horrors she endured would never be repeated. The story of the human girl who had been tortured by an empire only to become a catalyst for its downfall became a legend, told and retold across the galaxy. It served as a poignant reminder of the resilience of the oppressed and the inevitable fall of tyrants under the united front of those they seek to dominate. The galaxy, once ruled by fear and suppression, stepped into a new era of cooperation and hope, forever marked by the courage of a young girl and the simple, powerful warning, "Run."